Tonight on the Ronnie Show, well, safe to say it was a crazy weekend last week. I think that's quite the understatement. And, well, we're going to basically recap it all for you right here, right now, on the Ronnie Show.
I woke up this morning, outside of the cold. I don't hesitate. I make a friend. It's so amazing.
Thank you.
Love me or hate me, who ain't changing? Don't give a fuck. Just take it out.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Take it out.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Ronnie Show. So glad you could be with us here tonight. Ooh, it's hot. It's about to get fired up in here, I know that much. Last weekend, safe to say, was a crazy one for the Muskies. I think that's, like I said, quite the understatement. We're going to delve into basically what all happened and the reaction from fans really across the USHL about the atrocity, or whatever the word is, about last weekend. So, yeah. Of course, we're going to do that before the Muskies play this weekend. So, yeah, let's get talking. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, your applause, your love, you know, it always makes my heart feel so good. But all that happiness is about to be thrown out the window over the next 20 plus minutes as we take a deep dive as to what the hell happened this weekend. Because safe to say it was a crapshoot. It was mainly just Sunday, but well, luckily enough, it was just Sunday because things could have turned out really bad on Saturday night because, of course, we had the worst referee in the league. Nobody from any team likes him, so things could have ended up really, really bad Saturday night, but surprisingly they didn't. So, yeah, we're going to delve into all of that, but to just give you a little bit of a preview as to what we're about to dive into here. So if you follow me on Snapchat, which I only have my friends follow me on Snapchat or add me or whatever, just because, you know, that's just the way it is. Or people at least I know. I add people that I know of and I recognize the name and things like that. So, so if you're just a regular viewer who, you know, probably doesn't know me or you're a stranger to me, just because, you know, I haven't met you or anything like that, then you probably won't see me add you back if you try and add me just because for that reason. I mean, YouTube, when you look at, and I don't know why we're getting into this now, but because this is not something I had planned on talking about, but YouTube, that kind of has a list of who your subscribers are, but it doesn't show all of them. So obviously I won't be able to tell, you know, who is who. So that's why I don't do that. But back to the main point, what I do is that I kind of post behind the scenes of what goes on during the intermissions, just kind of my thoughts, some bonus thoughts you don't get to see anywhere else, really. So we're going to be playing that right now, and that's going to give you a preview of what's going on. So roll it. Well, there it is. Hello, I hope you get the beat out of you today. Although you guys are probably tired from scoring 7 on us last night, so that should be no problem. We'll see you inside. Well, I gotta do this again because another game, we were in track to win, but then the referees and Dubuque got in the way. And so here I say, goodbye, assholes. Don't come back, because there's going to be hell to be paid, raised, whatever, you know what I mean. There's people crossing the street, and I don't want them seeing. Either way, there's going to be a price to pay tonight, Dubuque. You got it? Yes, you better, because I'll remember this night. I'm going to remember it. And next time they show up in Sioux City, they're going to make sure that I remember it. In fact, they're going to make sure they remember it too. I'll just say that. Dubuque, they're no good as it is. But yet they want to start bullshit that they don't need to get involved with. They just use their offense. They score over 5 goals a game on average. Stick to that and don't stick to the fights and the other crap you do in between, paying the refs like that, because that pisses me off. These idiots, I swear. But you know what? Hey, you guys like it when I tell other teams off, so I'm gonna do it. This is just the beginning, so just imagine what happens later on in the season when I get even more savage. And then, of course, you watch my YouTube channel and you hear my play-by-play, and it's even worse. In terms of insults and words I use and crap like that. Well, I was going to go, but then the car pulled out. But I'm so pissed off, so I could care less. I'm going to play... I have a playlist, a music playlist on YouTube that I play when the Muskies lose, and it's full of all kinds of songs for me to kill my voice to. Not gonna lie, if I could kill people from the other team and get away with it, you know damn straight I would. I'd do it. Nuisances, they're not needed. Of course, most of them are foreign, so Trump better get them on the deportation list. That's all I'm gonna say. So, because they're the ones that started all the trouble, so. Anyway, before I get pissed off and say even more crazy, I better stop while I'm ahead. So, bye! Turns out I'm not even done yet, because I forgot the most important thing. So tonight, after the game, is the season ticket holders skate with the players after the game. But since, I can't skate, really, I decided to leave, obviously. Well, of course, the guys that, stick up for our other guys when they get hit or whatever, safe to say, they tried going over. They were just in their jerseys, their skates, and their shorts, probably their underpants at that point. And they went over to the Dubuque, right across the way to Dubuque's locker room. Well, at least they tried to, but security wouldn't let them. And because Dubuque, they were being kumquats once again. And Sioux City, they wanted to have a discussion. And I think they should have. I think they should have settled their differences, give them a good old-fashioned fist fight, and boom, be done with it. But no, Dubuque's a bunch of that's why. So yeah, okay, I'm done with, I think. I need to get some dinner and calm down. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Shit, now I try to get dinner from one of my favorite restaurants here in Sioux City, Jim's Burgers, and there's a line in the car in front of me. Well, okay, now they move, but what the my God, I thought I was done for the night, but now I'm going back down here the other way towards Come and Go and IHOP and all those places after just getting my Jim's Burgers, and the Dubuque bus just passed us going, I don't even know what direction, but they're going the opposite way. I don't know where they're going, but I should turn around and go follow them or something. I don't know. I'm going to say his payback is a I am done. Oh, might as well while I'm here. I got a spoon for my chili fries. Although I need a fork to eat that. But nope. Okay, I'm done. Once I get my chili fries in my stomach, I should be calm. Or as Chaperone would say, HOTTOGO. But yeah, I'm done. Good night. Oh, it was something. It was always something on Sunday. It really honestly was. I mean, it was, oh, God. Even just trying to get dinner, obviously, was quite a hassle. I mean, it was actually on Saturday night, because I planned on going there on Saturday night to Jim's Burgers, but it said they were closed, even though it was, I knew they weren't. They didn't close probably for another 45 minutes. So the thing said, sorry, this restaurant's closed. And then I think the guy that was in the drive-thru yelled, "No!" Like, it's not. But then he didn't say anything else after that. So it's just, I just forgot about it, and then I just went on Sunday. Because usually when I go to Jim's Burgers, I would go on Sundays. So, yeah, that's just the way the routine was for the most part. So, without further ado, let's start with what happened this weekend, basically. We're not going to talk about the Fargo game on Thursday because, obviously, you all know how it went. If you watched the broadcast this weekend, you know how it went. It wasn't a good game. We started out well, and we actually played fairly well all throughout, but, you know, it was just... And you're going to see this weekend, because there'll be several talking points during the broadcast, and especially in the pregame show. Our defense has probably been the biggest weakness in terms of our team this year. So, yeah, our defense isn't really up to par, if that makes sense. So, yeah, that's just the way it is. It really honestly is. So, we'll start out on Saturday night. Dubuque came out swinging right away. In fact, going into that game, they scored 5.07 goals a game, while they had up to 5 by the end of the first period. They scored 5 right in the first, and Jason Kersner said it pretty much when on the coach's show yesterday, because our play-by-play announcer, he does a talk show on weekdays, and one of the segments is the Musketeers coach's show, where they delve into last weekend, and he basically pretty much said they lost the game in that first period. They really did. I didn't think they did at the time, just because, you know, I'm optimistic when it comes to the Sioux City teams that we cover here. Muskies, Bandits, Explorers, you know, things like that. Like, even though we were down 5-0, I thought for absolute certainty that we could still come back from this, because really the second and the third periods, we pretty much dominated them. We pretty much outplayed them. So it was just, had we taken that first period away, statistically we would have won the game, because we would have had more goals than Dubuque did, but that's just the way it happens sometimes, unfortunately. And I've said this before, I really don't care how well we play, or who's on our team, or what have you. It's just whether or not we win, or we at least get a point out of it, because it's 2 points for a win and 1 point for an overtime loss or a shootout loss. That's really all I care about, honestly. I could care less about how good or bad our team's playing, you know, who scored how many goals, or who scored how many points. Like, sure, all that is nice, but I honestly just care about points. I do. So, yeah. Anyway, that was Saturday night, and like we said, we had Daniel Fagan in, who's, like I said, the worst referee in the league. Nobody really likes him, and things could have gone a lot worse than they did. I mean, luckily enough, Dubuque got called for more penalties, and this was the thing that really ticked me off the whole game, is that at the ends of each periods, the Dubuque players would go and talk to the referees and their coaches. They would talk with the referees for a minute and a half at the end of each period. And I was befuddled by it, because, especially Saturday night, because they pretty much won the game. Well, they did win the game on Saturday. What did they have to complain about? What did they have to talk about? As far as I'm concerned, not a damn thing. But I guess Dubuque just wanted something to talk about. And this became abundantly clear once we got to Sunday. Even though that ticked me off on Saturday night, what we saw on Sunday, unbelievable. Disgraceful, as far as I'm concerned. And you might think, Ronnie, you're just another fan that's pissed off because your team's not doing well, this, that, and the other thing. Well, if you were in my shoes, you would feel the exact same way. And I'd say the exact same thing to you. So it's a double standard, you know. Yeah. So let's delve into Sunday. And now, we'll start at, Sunday, yeah. We'll start at 5:10 p.m. Now, at this point, the third period had just started. Just because the game ran quite long, because we had so many delays in the second period. Mainly towards the end, because Luke Gary scored, or was it Trey Jeffrett? No, it was Luke Gary, I think. I have the game pulled up here. Yes. Okay, no, it was Trey Jeffress that scored right at the end of the period, and he scored shorthanded, and Dubuque had reviewed it, or they had challenged it for goaltender interference, which clearly it was going to still stand. I mean, Trey didn't interfere with him in any way. Like, sure, the only thing he really did that could have possibly been considered interference was on his rebound, because he got his own rebound. He kind of jammed the goalie's pad, but by that point, 75% of his pad was already in the net. So, I mean, I don't know. But either way, they counted it. However, they did such a piss-poor job of controlling the game. All four Zebras that were out there, they did such a piss-poor job that while the referees were in the penalty box reviewing, Sioux City and Dubuque almost got into it. And had it not been for the one linesman that was... because I only saw the one. Both of them are supposed to stand in between the benches in case something goes down. And something pretty much did go down, although there weren't that going on. It was just, for the most part, although it had the chance to get out of control. And instead of the referees, helping out the linesmen, they're in the box, and they look up, and they're just staring at what's going on. They're not doing anything. They're just staring there. They're not even looking at the iPad, reviewing the play. They're just staring there and seeing what's going on. Not doing anything. While we could have had a full-on brawl on the ice. Ridiculous. Just stupid. Because you're not doing your job. That's why. Like, I get it, yes, you're reviewing a play, but if something happens, you get your behind out onto the ice and you fix what's going on. Instead of having the linesman to do all the work. So that was dumb. So it was at that point, Mason Fleece, he was the one that instigated it. He got an unsportsmanlike. And then Luke Gehry actually went to the goaltender and said some choice words. And I'm so mad that the last... probably 15 minutes of the second period got cut out on the broadcast because it was awesome. Because I thought that it was screen recording, the stream, because we did that test stream early on in the week and it worked. So, but I guess every time before you screen record, you have to manually put the microphone on. And I thought it would just stay on at all times, but no, you have to go in and you have to push it every time. So we'll learn our lesson and we'll keep track of that on Friday. But I just find it so funny, off topic, that, basically, whenever we don't screen record to back it up, something goes wrong. And when we do, the broadcast goes perfectly. I don't understand that, but that's just the way it is. Boy, I'm getting hot just talking about it. Even with this fan on, I'm like sweating. So yeah, all of that went down. And it was just stupid. And then at the end, the Muskies, they usually have a player interview out on the ice. And Trey Jeffress was the guy who they were going to be interviewing because he scored the shorthanded goal that tied up the game. It's 4-4 at that point. And I guess the referee took that as basically he was staying out on the ice, either A, looking for a fight, or B, trying to basically say something nasty to the officials when he was just standing there next to our media guy for an interview. Didn't say a word, apparently. And he got a gross misconduct for it. And that usually means you're suspended for maybe a couple of games. So if we lost Trey Jeffress because he was just waiting for an interview and the referees didn't notice that, then that would be really, really stupid. And I'll say this, too. Jason Kersner, and he said this in the coaches show yesterday, people from the league actually came here to Sioux City to talk with Jason Kersner about some of these things that happened, that we're going to be talking about, that happened on Sunday. And what results come from this, I'm not sure. We won't know until Friday night. Well, this is Friday night, in about half an hour or so, before we go on the air. So... but for now, Luke Gehry has a game misconduct. Kason Musket has a game misconduct. Jeffress for sure has a game misconduct. It could be more. We hope it's not more because those are pretty much our three top guys right there. Gone. Except for William Tomko. He's still in. But everybody else. And I hope these meetings, something happens. from these meetings. That's all I can really hope for at this point. So, but the funny thing was, and we didn't get this on camera, but they showed while all that was going on, the kiss cam. They put both the referees, because they were standing right next to each other, on the kiss cam. And the Muskies, they haven't done a kiss cam since, I think, before COVID. And now the only time they pull it out is when you either have two guys from the visiting side in the penalty box, or I guess now when you have the referees, you know, talking. This was at 5:33 p.m. And this guy said, anybody got video of what happened at the end of the second period in the Dubuque and Sioux City game? Now, this guy, I couldn't tell where he lives. I think he's somewhere in Sioux Falls or Waterloo or something like that. I'm not sure. Oh, Cedar Rapids. Okay, so he's from Cedar Rapids. So this is a neutral fan. And the comment section, oh my God. So basically a whole bunch of people were just saying things. They weren't really giving any sort of explanation as to what actually happened. And this one guy from Dubuque really, really pissed me off. Because he said, end of the day, SC needs to move beyond playing dirty and concentrate on hockey fundamentals. Might help their game. Okay. Then this guy from, I'm thinking he's from Sioux City. Yeah, well, he has to be, or else he wouldn't have said this. Dubuque is all bark but no bite. They were literally talking all game long, and when it came to throw hands for running their mouths, Dubuque turned into crybaby and started to cry about everything. And the only thing that this guy could come back with is scoreboard. Now, yes, you're right, scoreboard. You guys won, okay? That was clear. But we dominated that whole entire game, and had it not been for these stupid penalties that did not need to have happen, we probably would have won the game. Concerning you guys played like crap the whole entire game, you do not deserve to throw that scoreboard out there. I mean, yeah, I guess that kind of contradicts with what I said earlier about I don't care how well a team plays, I just care about whether or not we win or get some points out of it. I know it kind of contradicts that, but... And then this guy responded back after he said scoreboard with, doesn't hurt my feelings. We lost. We all have bad seasons. And you know what? That's 100% true. This is our worst season, I will say, since the 1920 season when we were probably the worst team in the whole entire league. So, and we're not the worst team in the league this year. Far from it. So, I know we're going to be looking up here in the future. But this guy from Dubuque, you know, he's only seen us play 3 games. We've only played 3 games against Dubuque this year. That's 3 out of 62. And he's going to say if whether or not we're dirty or not, because he's going to base that off of 3 games. That's smart. So, yeah. And then they basically explained what I just showed you for the rest. But that guy, boy, that guy. And then we actually heard from one of the Fargo people themselves. We now have Darius Andres, Joey Hughes, Ron Gilmore, Albert Mata, Ryan Hoyland. We've added to those lists. And Darius Andres, of all people, I'm not sure if I really believe him when he says this, but he says, as much as I hate the Muskies, they are really getting hosed with these calls/non-calls. I'm not sure if he's being legitimate here. I gotta be honest with you. I mean, this kind of reminds me of, well, kind of what's going on in politics now. And I hate to bring up politics, but this was the first example I thought of. How, you know, and like I said, I'm not going to argue one way or the other on this, because that's not the point of this channel, or really this discussion, to be quite honest with you. But, you know, with Marjorie Taylor Greene kind of not siding with her party during the government shutdown, you know, she was going kind of voting with Democrats because she, you know, with all the health care and SNAP and things like that, you know, she sided mostly with them, and has kind of really been the voice of, well, Democrats would say she has a voice of reason. Now, like I said, I'm not going to argue which one way or the other. So, that's that. But that's kind of what it reminded me of. Like I said, I don't know if he's being legitimate here or not. And I know most Democrats aren't sure if, Marjorie Taylor Greene's being totally legitimate with her siding with them on these issues during the government shutdown. I don't know if it's legitimate or not, but basically Sioux City fans were, basically thanking them, and this guy's from Wisconsin, so why he even has a say in this, I don't know. But if they spent more time trying to play hockey instead of starting fights, it might not make a difference. Which, now looking at it, reading it now, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So, he's saying that even if we were to stop having fights and starting fights and if we're starting any fights, God forbid, but he's saying that it might not make a difference either which way. And, I gotta agree with him a little bit, because our defense, I will say, sucks. I gotta say it. I mean, I normally don't criticize the team because I think you're a bad fan if you do that, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this if Darius is being legitimate or not. We're gonna run over time, so we're gonna try and get through the rest of these quickly. Probably not, though, believe me. But this is at the end of the game when Dubuque players were shaking the hands of the referees. Now, as you guys know, I hate that with a passion. When those players, doesn't matter who's playing, they go and shake the refs' hands. And the Dubuque fans are like, oh, it's a respect thing, it's this, it's that, and the other thing. Well, Dubuque did it. Not necessarily shake hands, but like I said with Saturday night, their coaches and their players chat with the referees for a minute and a half after each period is over with. And it's just like, come on, really? Sure, if you're shaking hands at the end of the game saying, blah, 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 then okay, fine. I mean, it's really not that big of a deal. But when you're doing it at the end of every single period, that is suspect, in my opinion. That is suspicious as I will get out. And then, of course, Dubuque fans, they obviously basically were like, oh, if the Muskies didn't play dirty and this, that. Well, that's not the point. The point is your players talk with the referees for a minute and a half to 2 minutes after every single period about what happened, win or lose. Whether you're winning the game, you're losing the game, or whether or not you're going to win or you're going to lose. And no other team does this. No other team does this. The only time they ever talk with the refs at the end of a period is at the end of the third or at the end of overtime or whatever period the game ends in. That's the only time they do that, while Dubuque did it at the end of every single period of both games on Saturday and Sunday. Doesn't that not sound a little suspicious to you at all? Like, come on. BFFR. Be frickin' for real. Okay. Yeah, like this. I don't know where Monticello, Iowa is. I'm assuming it's near Dubuque or something like that. I don't freaking know. But she basically said, it's a respect thing. But when you do it after every single period when no other team does that, is that respectful or is it suspicious? I think it's the latter, but you guys decide. And then this guy basically said the same thing. In fact, both posts came within a minute of each other. And I'm trying to see who... Okay, so this guy from... I don't think he's... Okay, he is from Dubuque. He says that we have talent and respect. Losers always blame the officials. Your garbage team has 51 goals and 382 penalty minutes, almost double what most teams have. That's the part where he's wrong, because he's trying to say, oh, we have 382 penalty minutes, which is basically double what the next team has. No. Sioux Falls, who we're going to face on Friday, has about 40 less penalty minutes than we do. They're over 300. We're the only two teams in the league with over 300 penalty minutes. So you're wrong. You're flat out wrong. So, in fact, I'm not even going to read with the rest of what he says because it's all wrong. He lied that first sentence that came out of his mouth or that came out of his brain into a comment, you know, and things like that. And the great thing about this, about the Ronnie show and how I get to share, you know, my views on how other people are being stupid across the league, across all other teams, is that those keyboard warriors don't get to talk back to me in real time. So that's the part I love about doing this. Sure, you can get back to me in the comments after you see this, but, you know, sorry, game's over at that point, so. Oh, and Ron Gilmore, our guy from Fargo. What is happening? SC turning into the Omaha of last year? Omaha's still the worst team in the league. They got more points, I think, at this point now than they did last year, but they're still down in the basement for the most part. So, I would watch yourself when you say that. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, there is a video, and I don't know where it is. And it was of the Dubuque players. It was one of the players. I don't remember exactly what it was, but they were showboating on our ice and, you know, giving finger signals. In fact, they counted. The one guy was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then he goes like that towards the scoreboard and basically called us a whole bunch of dirty names. And back to the whole respect thing. If your team has respect, you wouldn't be showboating on our ice after a win. You really wouldn't. Because that makes you look like that's why. So the fact that he says, oh, because we have talent and we've got respect, thrown out the window, because we're going to insert that video of those Dubuque players doing that right now. You see what I mean? Where's the respect in that? Where's the respect in that? There is none. So that's another reason why he was wrong in that first sentence. And then we're going to show you this video now of a play that happened where Dallas View got called for interference. Or what was the actual penalty? Yeah, interference. So you saw Dallas View got tied up in front of the net, which is fine. And they just ignored how he got hit. Basically hit into the goaltender. And the goaltender's stick got tangled up. And instead of him trying to do something and, you know, basically make sure that View gets up and he's fine, he's just like, no, you can take your stick with me. Blah, blah, blah. Might as well. And then that's how View drew a penalty. Because he didn't do anything. He was just trying to get up and skate down ice where the play was. But no, Hanbalek wasn't going to do that. He was going to make sure that he doesn't get up easily, which fair play to him. But what was not fair was that Dallas View got called for it. And then once he tried to argue it, boom, immediately thrown out. See how this is ridiculous? You see how this is ridiculous? And why I'm turning red right now. Because I'm about to pop some blood vessels. You see how stupid this is. And how stupid this sounds. Ridiculous. Dubuque fans, if you think you have talent and respect, show it. Show it. Instead of showboating on our ice, you know, bragging about you win and whatever, show some respect. Show some. Then I might believe you. then other people who read that comment might believe you. Do better. Okay. I think we have one more post. One more post to go. And okay, this is just okay. So there's this discussion group that's pretty formal, you know. It's very clean, you know. People come to have a nice discussion, and, you know, they all respect each other, and this, that, and the other thing. They might not respect other people's teams, but they always show respect when when they give their opinions and things like that. Well, the lady who runs this, who's one of the moderators, and it's a family team who runs this. A family group. It's the one lady who we see most often, and then I don't know if it's her brothers or one guy's her husband, and I don't know how all that works. Frankly, I don't give a damn how it works. But anyway, so they run this group, and from what I've seen, very, very kind and pleasant and polite discussions. Well, this guy from Dubuque, because obviously the 4 suspensions that happened this weekend, 3 of them came from Sioux City, although depending on how those meetings went with Jason Kirshner, who knows, they might take him away, they might not, we'll see. But it's kind of funny that the one suspension that didn't come from Sioux City came from Chicago, and it was Cole Tuminaro, who played with Sioux City. So it's just kind of funny how that worked. It really just is. But, yeah, and this guy, Bill Kramer, and he said some nasty stuff in those other posts that I didn't talk about because I didn't think it warranted talking about. You get what I'm trying to say. And he said, Sewer City doing Sewer City still again. And this guy responded back, glad that my best friend, niece, and I aren't the only ones who refer to them as that. Bro, everybody refers to us as Sewer City. The 3 of you aren't unique. Or 4, however many the hell you said they were. You guys aren't unique. You guys might have thought you were, but you aren't. Look at the Fargo fans calling us Sewer City for the last 3 years. 3 years. Omaha fans, Sioux Falls fans, they all call us Sewer City. So the fact that you guys thought you were the only ones that referred to us as Sewer City is honestly funny as hell. I gotta be honest. It's just hilarious. Hilarious. It really is. I gotta be honest. But anyway, the reason why I wanted to talk about that was because there is a comment here. Well, let me drop down. So this is what the main page looks like. Obviously, you might not be able to see it very well, and that's really, you really don't need to. I'm going to go in on what the group is about, and I'm going to read it word for word, because this is a screenshot from my computer. It says, this is a USHL discussion group where everyone can talk and share their opinions and thoughts. The only way you won't be allowed is if you are rude and disrespectful, otherwise everyone is welcome. Doesn't matter who or what you like, all I ask is for everyone to respect each other. I am going to post things to just like everyone can. That sentence doesn't make any sense, but I advise everyone to post, comment, and enjoy posts on this group. I hope you truly enjoy the USHL and the 2024-2025 USHL season. She forgot to update those before the season started, but that's okay. That's not the point, because it says the only way you won't be allowed is if you are rude and disrespectful. And basically using a curse word and calling us names. That's not being respectful or nice. That's being rude and disrespectful, which is what the tagline is. It basically says not to do. And of course, this guy's from Dubuque, and the people who, oh yeah, those 3 siblings or whoever that run this, who moderate this, they're from Dubuque, and they're Dubuque fans. So obviously they're going to let that comment slide, but you know, when we try to, you know, when we say nasty things about them, or other teams say nasty things about them, they're probably going to immediately take them down. But no, because it's a double standard. That's why. So stupid. I swear, the people. some of these away fans and other teams around the league, they're really stupid. I don't know if you've figured that out yet, but they're really stupid. And really, to sum this whole thing up, like I said, you might think that, I'm being stupid. I'm this, that, and the other thing. And this is for all the people who are across the league who I make fun of their teams, things like that. You might think I'm dumb. You might think I'm stupid. You might think, because our team sucks, you're basically ignoring that fact. No. Because if you were in the same situation as the team, if you were Musketeer fans, or, you were fans of your own team, and you saw your own team not performing well, standings-wise, or on the ice, or whatever, and we were all making fun of you, most of you would have the same exact reaction as I do, basically having to defend what our team is doing, and basically to present evidence of the fact that you're being the stupid one. That's basically my job. And I love doing it. I love doing it because it's so much fun. It really honestly is fun. You see me get all worked up and get all mad about this. I gotta be honest, I'm having a lot of fun doing this, because, if you're just joking around and you're not actually being serious and things like that, then, then it's fun. But, there is a certain line, and I try not to cross that line, and most often I do, 99% of the time I do. There is that 1% where I admit I probably do cross the line a little bit, but it's all in good fun. What I'm saying now, I'm honestly thinking 10 times worse in my head. But if I would say that, what I'm actually thinking in my head, I'd be canceled. Like, nobody would like me or anything like that. So what I'm saying now is pretty tame compared to what I could be saying. And I'm sure you all are the same way with your team and other teams' fans and things like that. So, you know what? We're all big community. We're all one big community. We might not like each other's teams or what have you, but we can all agree on one thing here. It's that, if your team was in the same exact situation as our team was in, where the refs basically called 10-minute misconducts and game misconducts on 5 or 6 of the guys, you would be just as pissed off, if not even more pissed off, as I am and as the majority of Musketeers fans are. And our coaches. In fact, I didn't even mention, our coach got tossed at the end of the second for the rest of the game. Now, what I'm going to plan to do right after this broadcast, when we go into the game, is that I'm going to start playing the coach, well, not really the coach's show, but our play-by-play announcer, as part of his pregame show, he interviews Coach Kersner. So I think we're going to try and play that live if we can. It airs around 6:50-ish, 6:51-ish, somewhere in there. So I think we're going to cut out one of the commercials times so that we can air that. We might even go on the air a little bit earlier as well. It really all depends. I haven't figured out yet how that's all going to work, but I will eventually. So yeah, I'll be working on that sometime before it airs. So yeah, I think that's all I've got to say for the most part. So yeah, this has just been a wild episode. A wild weekend, but you know what? I don't think I'd want it any other way. Because when, crap like this happens, when we get screwed by the refs or something happens that screws us in any way, that always makes the broadcast a lot more interesting. I gotta be honest. And I've said this before, and I know a lot of you, you understand this, and, you agree, and you're probably the same way. But these Musketeers broadcasts, they're just for fun. They're not for anything else. I'm not trying to be serious or anything like that, like I would for, like, an NFL stream or college football or whatever. Any of the other big league stuff. Mainly because it's the only time I actually get to be a fan. Instead of, just being a play-by-play announcer, just relying facts and things like that. Which most of you pretty much already know. Most of the stuff they say on television, the stats and things like that, you all pretty much know about coming into this. If you're a diehard, passionate, and you follow the team every day, then you already know 99% of what they're saying on TV. So, but that's just the way it is. But So yeah, these Sioux City broadcasts, you know, I know, like I said, about 95-ish, between 95 and 98% of you get that, you know, they're just for fun. I'm not trying to be serious or anything like that. In fact, if I were to send in audition tapes to like networks and stuff, I would not include any of my Sioux City stuff at all, just because I wouldn't be able to. That wouldn't get me hired. In fact, I probably wouldn't get a job anywhere, if I'm being honest with you. So yeah, and I'll talk more about this, you know, towards the end of the year, because we have a year in review, and then we have a preview to what's going on next year. And obviously, as you know, next year is the 10th anniversary of RVN. So, obviously, we've got big celebrations planned for that and things like that. And like I said, well, we're going to get to talking about that in the future, you know, once we hit. I think the review will come out December 31st, and the preview will come out January 1st. I think that's how I'm going to do it from now on. I haven't always done it this way, but I always try to have a year in review and a preview of the next year type of video every year around New Year's. So I think you get what I mean there when I say that. So yeah. I think that's it. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we're pretty much going to preview this weekend. So, yeah. Stay tuned. Boy, almost 45 minutes this first segment was before we went to break. You all are extremely lucky for that. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Well, as I already mentioned, coming up next, we'll have Sioux Falls and Sioux City. That's going to be a great and exciting matchup, I have a feeling. Although Sioux Falls fans, they are the worst fans in the league. I gotta be honest. They are just so stupid. They think, you know, wearing animals on their head, dead animals, roadkill, you know, they think that looks pleasing to the eye. It doesn't. So stop it. And of course, those cowbells. Y'all can't wait for those. I can definitely wait. And Sioux City usually brings it when it comes to cowbells. So yeah. But Sioux Falls and Dubuque, they're the most cowbell crazy teams. I gotta be honest with you. Why? I don't know. Makes sense in Sioux Falls because the ceilings are higher and things like that. So, you know, it's able, you know, at least it's not as noisy in Sioux Falls as it would be, say, in Dubuque. So, yeah, ignore my hair. My hair's kind of goes all over the place. I guess that's just what happens when you grow it out. So, yeah, but anyway. So we'll have that on Friday night. Then Saturday night, we're going to have college football. Texas versus Georgia, as well as Sioux City. They will be in Omaha on Saturday night. So we'll be on the air 6:45 Eastern time on Saturday night for that. And then Sunday, we'll have the Chiefs at Denver. So for our Sunday NFL game. So yeah, that will be on the air for that around 4:20 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you join us for that. We'll take one final break, and we're going to come back right after this. Welcome back, everybody. Well, what did we learn here tonight? I think it's the fact that, you know, no matter what happens, you know, if Dubuque, if they were in the same situation as we were in on Sunday, you'd understand why we'd be frustrated. And trust me, Sioux City fans would be making fun of you just as much as you were making fun of us. So it's a double standard, but that's the way it works sometimes. We'll see you next time. That coming up next, stay tuned. Sioux Falls and Sioux City. See ya.